Welcome back to the channel. Today's review is going to be on the brand new Civivi Navo. This is an Ostap Hel design. I like a lot of his design aesthetics. Even though I'm not a flipper only type of guy, I still like his stuff enough to where I can look past that. The Navo is, I'd call it a medium-sized knife at 7.68 inches long with a 3¼ inch drop point blade. Mine has a black wash finish. Of course, if you don't like black blades, there are other options. It's going to be a fairly versatile blade shape. The tip is a little higher than I typically like. However, you can still use it to do detailed stuff. You just have to come up a little bit higher, not at a 90-degree angle or anything, so it's still going to have good versatility. Slicing onto a flat surface is where it should shine. You can still do in-hand cuts because you got a good enough amount of straight edge portion before you'll come sliding out at that belly. And of course, piercing is going to be another strong suit there. You got a nice needle-like tip. You have 2 rows of fine cut jimping here. If you choke back, I guess, more so, I find this one to be the functional one up here. It definitely grips the thumb without being uncomfortable if you don't need it. You got a pretty good sharpening choil. You're going to have to about right here. So you're going to have several sharpenings before you'll ever have to worry about this thickening up on you. Your blade steel, as you can see right there, is Nitro V stainless steel, and Civivi does a really good job with it. I've never had any complaints with it. Sharpens up well, holds a respectable edge. It's got good corrosion resistance, and it's got good toughness. I find it to be very easy to sharpen up and to maintain on, say, a ceramic rod or a strop. You got nice thin blade stock at 0.10 paired with a nice full flat grind that comes down to around 16 thousandths behind the edge. So all that together, this one should be a slicing machine. We're going to find out. So this one came very sharp out of box, and I already kind of figured it would probably be a good slicer because a lot of Ostap Hel's designs are designed with good blade geometry. This one's no exception. It's got thin blade stock, full flat grind, comes down nice and thin, so all it needed was a sharp edge, and it definitely came with that. It's whipping through this cardboard like it's not even there. You don't have any huge choil area to get hung up in or anything, and so far so good. Now we're testing the ergos and seeing how it wants to bite into the wood. Now, you know, light pressure to medium pressure, it was fantastic. It was wanting to bite really quick. I didn't have any hot spots that I really noticed, but whenever I started really bearing down or getting into that, you know, serious pressure, I could kind of feel a little bit of flex. It's just because of the micarta and a little bit thinner of scales, but it was fine. Here I can feel the bite to the edge, and it's got the perfect amount of belly. It's going to really excel at cutting on a flat surface like this. You can see me doing the pointer finger grip, which I can only do if the knife is ridiculously sharp. And it's only because I can't put a lot of pressure like that. So the pinch grip is comfortable. I go back and forth just because, you know, when it's that sharp, I can kind of give my blisters some relief there by not having to cut in that manner. And I love whenever I can do the pointer finger grip. This one feels good. You know, I can't really ask for more than a sharp knife, especially one that's got good bite to it to where it can handle these more fibrous materials like this. And yeah, so far it's definitely shining the most here, and I figured that, you know, because it's not typically my go-to blade shape. It's got a little bit of higher tip than I typically like to have. I like a little bit more versatility, but just showed you right there, you can still use the tip. You just got to come up a little bit higher. Not that bad. So still going to be a versatile blade shape. Just depends on what you're looking for. You know, it's always a trade-off, you know, from one side to another. Like I said, this one's really gonna shine at doing this type of cutting on a flat surface, and the warranty is gonna be great at doing detailed stuff in an in-hand. But this one performed great. Didn't expect anything less. Outstanding job, Civivi. Well, it definitely didn't disappoint, that's for sure. So now let's take a look at the deployment on this one. This is another place this one shines, in my opinion. as long as you don't mind a little bit bigger of a flipper tab. You got a very well placed flipper. You got some nice jimping there. This one, you just put your finger on there, this thing rockets out. Very, very nice and snappy. Riding on cage ceramic bearings with the ceramic detent ball. If you want to load up on the top right there, you may get a little bit faster of a flip, but not something I notice. And I'm more about comfort and not having to really think about it. Not that you have to think about loading it up. For the most part, it's usually more comfortable doing a light switch action. Now let's touch on the ergos real quick. So you have a fairly neutral broomstick style handle, a small choil up here, and just average thickness on those scales. For the most part, everything that I did was comfortable. Now, if you do the reverse pull grip like this, it's comfortable. Maybe when you're really bearing down, pulling hard into something, you may feel this flipper tab, but as you can see, it's chamfered everywhere and it's not terrible. You can definitely do some cuts. I did some light pull cuts like this. I had no issues. Pinch grip is nice and comfortable. I can get down on that tip. I can get a good bit of pressure down on that tip. And if I need to pierce into a bag of potato chips or something, you're good. You got a nice little guard there created by that flipper tab. The reverse grip is nice and comfortable because this is rounded over. And once again, you have that guard keeping you from sliding up on that blade. The only time I ever really noticed it to not be as comfortable as it was before is whenever I was pushing really hard into the wood. And it's more so because these are fairly narrow scales. And a lot of times with especially the Civivi's micarta variants, they get a little bit of flex to them. And I only feel that whenever I'm really squeezing hard because I'm pushing hard into something, and it just makes it just not as comfortable. It wasn't terrible. It was no huge hot spots or anything, but just something I wanted to note. Now let's close it up and take a look at the handle area. My particular version has this green micarta, nice and grippy. They got a fair amount of machining on this one. So you got chamfers on the side. It's gonna be hard to see. You got a chamfer down the middle. You got the 3 keyhole slots that are also on the opposite side. You got this one right here by the pivot. Then it's matched by the clip. TA construction throughout on this one. Flow through construction, 2 hourglass standoffs. And if you like to have a lanyard on your knife, you also have a little lanyard pin right there. That way they don't have to put an extra hole in the scales or anything. There's no sharp areas or corners anywhere. Civivi always does a great job. They round over the very corners. And I don't usually hardly ever see any kind of sharp areas. No filler tab on the pocket clip. I'm fine with it on a budget knife. You do have a tip up deep carry clip. As you can see, it is in set. Now it does sit a little bit above the micarta, not enough to affect anything. And it does bury all the way into the pocket. It is reversible like you just saw. Your centering on this one is right down the middle. And besides all the milling and the holes that go all the way through and through, as you see there, you have tons of skeletonization on the top liner and on the bottom liner to not just bring down the weight, but also balance the knife out. And the balance point is a little back. You're at the back of that choil area, but I will say I did not notice that during cutting. It did not feel like it was gonna, it did not feel super butt heavy to where it was gonna slide down in my hand or anything. So not really an issue. Still extremely lightweight at 2.87 ounces. This one is a liner lock, and my particular lockup is sitting at around, I'd say 50% engagement there, as you can see, hopefully. Access to the lock bar is good. This show side comes in a little bit lower, and you have some texture on that lock bar. Not something I always love to see, but it's not uncomfortable at all. I can use the tip of my thumb. I can use this portion. No problem whatsoever. I can even do the claw if I want. The lockup, rock solid. No movement in any direction. That's all I'm ever looking for. And now for some size comparisons. As you can see, it's in the middle of the Ontario Rat 1 and 2, more similar to the Rat 2. And it's also in the middle of the Civivi Cogent and the Civivi Elementum 2. And it's a little shorter than the Civivi Brazen, and it's very similar in length to the CJRB Pyrite Light. Next to another Ostap Hel design, it's a good bit smaller than the O-Knife Ion, and it really reminded me a lot of the Civivi Merit, which it's pretty much identical in length to. And lastly, it's a little bit shorter than the Civivi Savant, I think it is, and it's a decent bit bigger than a QSP Penguin. Since no knife's perfect, what are my nitpicks and complaints? Everything I got's pretty much a nitpick. They could maybe thicken up the micarta scales so they wouldn't have the flex, but you really got to bear down, so it's a very minor thing. I would have loved to see the jimping, even though I don't really care too much about jimping. If you could put it, I like to see it to be as functional as it can. And I know he does this a lot, but I would have loved to see the jimping go all the way through right here. That way if you choke back, you're always on it. So, like I said, very minor thing there. They could have put a filler tab here, but that would have also increased the cost. So on a budget knife, I'm good with it. But other than that, I think it's a good looking knife. It's got fantastic flipping action. Very, very snappy there. It's nice and streamlined in the pocket, even though you're going to have a fairly large flipper tab, you know, sticking out. So if you do put something in there, it's going to be rubbing on that. It's super lightweight, easy to carry. The blade is extremely slicey because you got nice thin blade stock, that full flat grind passes through materials very, very well. And the black wash finish, I don't find it cause as much drag as I expect it to, but it's just going to depend on what you're cutting. And all in all, I think it's a solid knife, especially if this one checks all the boxes for you. Nothing I talked about was a deal breaker for you. Yeah, I think it's a great knife. You know, like I said earlier, I like his design. They speak to me for the most part. He does a lot of the more streamlined stuff, and I've been enjoying that, especially the lightweight stuff. You know, I wear lightweight shorts for 90% of the time, so stuff like this is really easy for me to carry. And the Navo in this configuration comes in at $65. I don't think that's out of line at all. You know, Civivi produces a super high quality product, great fit and finish from knife to knife for the most part. I haven't had any glaring huge issues with the fit and finish over the years. And Civivi Sin Cut, in my opinion, are some of the most consistent production knives you can get. I'd love to hear y'all thoughts on the new Civivi Navo. Does this one do it for you? Do you own one? If so, what do you think about it? If you're interested in picking up one, I will have it linked down below in the description. It will be an affiliate link, so if you want to help support what I do here in this channel, that just helps me pay for my testing materials. Can't thank you enough. If not, no sweat at all. Just keep coming back. Alright guys and girls, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave those down below and I'll do my best to get back with you. I hope every single one of y'all is having an outstanding day today. And remember, keep these blades sharp. Smile more. Hey, hey!